Captain Emma Blake stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched the alien ships approach. Her heart beat faster, but she kept her face calm. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for. First contact with an intelligent alien species. "They're hailing us, Captain," said Commander Jake Morrison from his station. He was a tall man with dark hair and steady hands. Emma had served with him for 3 years, and she trusted him completely. "Open the channel," Emma said. The main screen flickered to life. A Krell appeared before them. The alien looked almost reptilian, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to glow. It wore elaborate armor covered in symbols Emma didn't recognize. "I am High Commander Zeknor of the Krell Collective," the alien said. The translator worked perfectly, turning the alien's hissing speech into clear English. "You are the humans we have heard about." "I am Captain Emma Blake of Earth," she replied. "We come in peace, seeking friendship and understanding between our peoples." The Krell commander tilted his head, studying her. "Peace, an interesting concept. We shall see if your actions match your words. You will board our flagship for a formal meeting. Bring 5 of your people, no weapons." Emma glanced at Jake. He looked worried, but he nodded slowly. They had discussed this possibility. First contact required trust. "We accept your invitation," Emma said. 2 hours later, Emma and her team stood in the shuttle bay preparing to leave. Besides Jake, she brought Dr. Lisa Chen, their science officer, along with 2 security officers named Danny Cooper and Frank Martinez. They wore dress uniforms, but no weapons, as requested. "Stay alert," Emma told them quietly. "Be respectful, but watch everything. We're making history today." The shuttle ride to the Krell flagship took 20 minutes. The alien ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Horizon. Its hull was black and covered in sharp angles that made it look like a weapon itself. Inside, the Krell greeted them formally. High Commander Zeknor led them through corridors filled with other Krell, all watching the humans with those glowing yellow eyes. Emma noticed the aliens were all much larger than humans, averaging over 7 feet tall. They entered a great hall. Hundreds of Krell filled the space, arranged in rows like a military formation. At the far end sat what Emma assumed were the Krell leaders, seated on elevated platforms. "Welcome, humans," Zeknor said loudly. "Today we witness a new chapter in galactic history." The ceremony began. The Krell performed rituals that the humans watched carefully. There were speeches about cooperation and mutual respect. Emma gave her own speech about humanity's hopes for peaceful coexistence. Everything seemed to be going well. Then, everything went wrong. A group of Krell warriors suddenly moved from the sides of the hall. They wore different armor, darker and more aggressive looking. Their leader, a massive Krell with scars across his face, roared something in their language. "Treachery," the translator said. "War Commander Vekthar declares this peace a weakness. Humanity must be conquered, not befriended." The hall erupted into chaos. Half the Krell seemed shocked, while others cheered. Emma realized with horror that this was a coup, a military faction seizing power right in front of them. "Get back to the shuttle," Jake shouted, grabbing Emma's arm. But Vekthar's warriors were already moving. They raised weapons that looked like rifles, but glowed with blue energy. The first shot hit Frank Martinez in the chest. He fell without a sound. "Run!" Emma screamed. They ran. Danny Cooper fired back with a hidden pistol he'd smuggled aboard, buying them seconds. But more shots came. Lisa Chen cried out and dropped. Danny turned to help her, and more energy bolts caught him. He fell across Lisa's body. Emma and Jake sprinted down the corridor. Behind them, they heard fighting. Some Krell were attacking Vekthar's forces, trying to stop the coup. But the rebels had planned well. "The shuttle is ahead," Jake yelled. Emma saw it. The bay doors were still open, just 50 more feet. Then something hit her from behind. Pain exploded through her body, hot and sharp. She stumbled, and Jake caught her. "Emma!" His voice sounded far away. "Go!" she gasped. "Get home! Tell them! I'm not leaving you! That's an order, Commander!" Blood filled her mouth. She could feel her body shutting down. "Tell Earth what happened here! Tell them I tried!" More shots hit the walls around them. Jake looked at her face, and she saw the exact moment he realized she was dying. Tears filled his eyes, but he was a soldier. He knew his duty. "I'll make them pay for this," he whispered. "I swear it." "No," Emma said, using her last strength to grip his arm. "Tell them to choose peace. Don't let my death start a war. Promise me, Jake." He nodded, unable to speak. Then he laid her down gently and ran for the shuttle. Emma watched him go. She heard the shuttle engines fire up. Good. He would make it. The mission wasn't a complete failure if someone survived to tell the story. Vecthar appeared above her, his scarred face twisted in contempt. "Weak," he hissed. "Your species is weak. This one speaks of peace even as she dies. Pathetic." Emma smiled through the blood. "You'll see. Humans are stronger than you think." Those were her last words. The world went dark, and Captain Emma Blake died on the floor of an alien ship, far from home. Jake Morrison made it to the horizon. The shuttle docked just as Krell fighters began launching. He ran to the bridge, shouting orders. The crew, seeing his blood-covered uniform and devastated face, knew something terrible had happened. "Get us out of here! Maximum speed!" The horizon jumped to faster-than-light travel, just as the first missiles reached them. They escaped, but barely. During the long journey home, Jake wrote his report. He included everything: the ceremony, the coup, the murders. But he also included Emma's last words. Her plea for peace instead of revenge. When Earth received the news 3 weeks later, the reaction was immediate. Shock, grief, and rage spread across every human colony. Emma Blake had been beloved, a symbol of humanity's better nature. Her murder seemed senseless and cruel. Then the Krell made contact. High Commander Zeknor, who had apparently survived the coup and regained control, sent a formal apology. He claimed Vecthar and his faction had acted against orders. He offered reparations, technology, trade agreements, and most importantly, he broadcast Vecthar's public execution across all channels. The United Colonies Council met for days. Director Helen Parker, a gray-haired woman who had led Earth's government for a decade, faced an impossible choice: war or peace, revenge or cooperation. She chose peace. Emma Blake's last words were a call for understanding, not violence, Parker said in her address to humanity. "We will honor her memory by accepting the Krell apology. We will build bridges, not burn them. This is what Emma would have wanted." Not everyone agreed. Many thought Earth looked weak, that Emma's killers got away with murder. But Parker held firm. Treaties were signed. The Krell offered technological knowledge as compensation. Trade routes opened. 5 years changed everything and nothing at all. Captain Jake Morrison, no longer a commander but a full captain now, sat in his quarters aboard the patrol vessel Defender. The ship was small, fast, and stationed at the edge of human territory, far from Earth, far from the Krell, far from the politics that made his stomach turn. "Captain, we have a diplomatic convoy approaching," his communications officer said over the intercom. "Krell and human ships together. They're requesting passage through our sector." Jake closed his eyes. Even after 5 years, hearing about Krell ships made his blood run hot. "Grant them passage. Standard escort protocol." "Yes, sir." He didn't go to the bridge to watch them pass. He couldn't. Instead, he stayed in his quarters, staring at the photo on his desk. Emma Blake smiled at him from the frame, young and full of hope. That photo was taken a week before they left for the first contact mission. "I kept my promise," he whispered to the image. "I told them to choose peace, but I never promised to like it. Across human space, the uneasy cooperation continued. Trade with the Krell brought new technology. Human scientists studied their propulsion systems and power generation. Krell scholars visited Earth universities. On the surface, everything looked peaceful. But people remembered. They remembered Emma Blake. They remembered the 3 crew members who died with her. And they wondered if Director Parker had made the right choice. On Luna, Earth's moon, a massive station orbited in silence. The Emma Blake Memorial Research Facility housed 300 scientists and staff. They worked on defensive technologies, better shields, improved weapons systems. All in Emma's name, Dr. Kate Williams worked in Lab 7, deep in the station's core. She had known Emma at the academy. They had been friends, close friends, before duty sent them on different paths. When Emma died, Kate requested assignment to the memorial station. She poured her grief into work. "Run the test again," Kate told her assistant, a young man named Gary Hughes. "The shield harmonics are off by 0.3%. "That's within acceptable parameters," Gary said. "Acceptable isn't good enough." Kate's voice was sharp. "Emma died because we weren't ready, because we didn't have the technology to protect our people. I won't accept good enough ever again." Gary nodded and ran the test again. He had learned not to argue with Dr. Williams when she got that tone in her voice. The shield technology Kate developed was revolutionary. It could absorb energy weapon fire and redirect it back at attackers. Human warships were being retrofitted with her designs, quietly, without much publicity, just in case, because some people in Earth's military hadn't forgotten either. Admiral Ben Carter commanded the Earth Defense Fleet from his office in Geneva. He was an old man now with white hair and tired eyes, but his mind was sharp, and he understood strategy better than anyone. "Show me the production reports," he told his aide, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster. Amy pulled up the data on his screen. "All shipyards are running at maximum capacity, sir. We've built 200 new warships in the past 3 years. The Krell think they're for exploration and patrol." "Good." Carter leaned back in his chair. "And the weapon systems?" "Installed and tested. Railguns, plasma cannons, and the new kinetic missiles. All using technology we learned from the Krell, but improved. Human engineers took their designs and made them better." Carter smiled coldly. "Ironic, isn't it? They give us their technology as an apology, and we turn it into weapons that could destroy them." "Are we really preparing for war, sir?" Amy asked quietly. "Director Parker's policy is clear, peace at any cost." "Parker is a politician," Carter said. "I'm a soldier. My job isn't to keep the peace. It's to protect humanity if the peace fails. And something tells me it will." He was right to prepare. Far from Earth, on the other side of known space, the Krell Collective held its own secrets. High Commander Zeknor sat in his command center, reviewing reports. The human alliance had brought prosperity to the Krell, but it had also brought shame. Many in the Krell military still believed Vekthar had been right. Humans were weak. The execution of Vekthar and the apology to Earth had been humiliating. The warrior caste wanted revenge. "Commander, the research facility reports another successful test," his science officer said. "Excellent. Continue the work. The humans must never learn what we're doing." The facility sat on a dead moon in a system no human had ever visited. Inside, Krell scientists worked on biological weapons, specifically weapons designed to target human physiology. They studied human DNA, human weaknesses, human diseases, and they had the perfect test subjects. In a cold cell deep in the facility, a woman sat on a metal bench. She looked human, with brown hair and green eyes. She wore a gray jumpsuit marked with numbers, EB7. Her name was Emma, or at least she had Emma Blake's face, Emma's voice, Emma's DNA. She was a clone, created from genetic material taken from Emma's body after the massacre 5 years ago. She wasn't the only one. 12 other humans sat in similar cells, all clones of people the Krell had killed over the years. The Krell scientists called them research specimens. They ran tests on them, painful tests, learning everything they could about human biology. Emma 7, as the scientists called her, had fragments of memories that weren't hers, flashes of a ship called Horizon, a man named Jake, a mission that went wrong. The original Emma's consciousness had somehow imprinted on her DNA, leaving ghost memories in the clone's mind. She knew she wasn't the real Emma Blake, but she also knew what the Krell were doing was wrong. She had tried to escape twice. Both times they caught her and punished her. Now she waited, hoping that somehow someone would find this place. Back on Earth, life continued. People went to work, raised families, lived their lives. Most had moved on from Emma Blake's death. It was history now, a sad chapter in humanity's expansion into space. But Jake Morrison hadn't moved on. He flew his patrol routes and counted the days. Every time he saw a Krell ship, he imagined firing on it. Every time he heard Director Parker talk about friendship between species, he wanted to scream. One night, unable to sleep, he recorded a message. He addressed it to no one in particular, just speaking his thoughts aloud. It's been 5 years since Emma died. 5 years since I ran away and left her body on that alien ship. I followed her orders. I delivered her message of peace. And humanity chose to forgive. But I haven't forgiven. I can't. Every day I wonder if we made the right choice. Every day I wonder what Emma would think of the world we built in her memory. Would she be proud? Or would she see what I see, a humanity that let her killers win? I don't know anymore. I just know that if the Krell ever betray us again, if they ever hurt another human the way they hurt Emma, I won't run. I won't ask for peace. I'll burn their whole civilization to the ground. He erased the message after recording it. Some thoughts were better left unspoken. But the universe has a way of answering unspoken prayers, and sometimes the truth comes out when you least expect it. 3 weeks later, the Pathfinder, a human exploration vessel, picked up a distress signal from deep in space. It was faint, almost lost in background radiation. But it was there, and it was broadcasting in English. This is research specimen EB7. I don't know if anyone can hear this. I don't know if anyone is looking. But if you're human, please find us. They're hurting us. They're killing us slowly. We're on a moon in the Krell system designated Red 47. Please, we're running out of time. The message repeated on a loop. The Pathfinder's captain, a woman named Helen Martinez, immediately sent the recording to Fleet Command. She didn't know what EB7 meant. She didn't know who was sending the Mesa Captain Jake Morrison received the emergency orders at Oro 300 hours. He was sleeping when the alarm woke him, but the moment he read the message, sleep became impossible. All ships proceed immediately to coordinates in Red 47 system. Possible human survivors. Exercise extreme caution. Fleet Admiral Carter has authorized use of force if necessary. Jake was dressed and on the bridge in 3 minutes. Set course for Red 47, maximum speed. Sir, that's deep in Krell territory, his navigation officer said. We'll be violating the treaty. I don't care about the treaty right now. There are humans in trouble. Move! The Defender jumped to faster-than-light travel, racing across space. Jake's mind spun with possibilities. Human survivors. After 5 years? How was that possible? It took 6 hours to reach the coordinates. When they dropped out of FTL, Jake saw other human ships arriving too. The Pathfinder was already there, orbiting a dead moon that circled a frozen gas giant. And there, on the moon's surface, sat a Krell facility. I'm reading life signs, the science officer said. Human life signs. At least 12 of them, and about 50 Krell. Jake's hands gripped the armrests of his command chair. Humans alive in a secret Krell facility. Every instinct screamed at him that something was very wrong. "Open a channel to the Pathfinder. Tell Captain Martinez we're going in. Drop teams to the surface. Full combat gear." "Sir, we don't have authorization to attack a Krell facility." "Then I'll face the court-martial later. Get our people down there now." 20 minutes later, Jake led a team of 15 Marines through the facility's main entrance. They blew the doors open with explosives, stunning the Krell guards inside. The aliens reached for weapons, but the Marines were faster. The firefight lasted less than a minute. "Secure the area," Jake ordered. "Find those humans." They moved through sterile corridors that reminded Jake of a hospital. But this was no hospital. This was something else. The walls were lined with equipment he didn't recognize. Monitoring stations showed biological data, test results, experiment logs. "Captain, you need to see this," one of the Marines called out. Jake entered a large room filled with cells. Glass walls showed small chambers, each containing a person. They all wore gray jumpsuits marked with numbers and letters. Some sat on benches. Others lay on beds. All of them looked thin, tired, and scared. "Oh, God," Jake whispered. He approached the nearest cell. A woman stood inside, pressing her hands against the glass. She had brown hair, green eyes, and a face that Jake would recognize anywhere. "Emma?" The word came out broken. The woman shook her head. "Not exactly. I'm clone EB7, but I have some of her memories. Are you Jake?" Jake couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. This was impossible. Emma was dead. He watched her die. But this person had her face, her voice, her eyes. "Get these cells open," he managed to say. "Get all of them out." The Marines worked on the controls. One by one, the glass walls slid open. The prisoners stumbled out, weak but alive. Jake counted 13 people total. All of them were clones of humans the Krell had killed. "What did they do to you?" Jake asked the Emma clone. "Tests. Painful tests. They wanted to find weaknesses in human biology. They infected us with diseases to see how we reacted. They exposed us to radiation. They tested weapons on us." Her voice was calm, but her hands shook. "We're not people to them. We're lab animals." Jake felt rage building inside him, hot and pure. "How long?" 5 years. Since they created me. The others have been here different amounts of time, some longer." "Get them to the ships," Jake ordered. "Medical teams now. And someone find the facility's computers. I want every file, every record. I want to know exactly what happened here." The evacuation took an hour. The Krell scientists tried to resist, but the Marines handled them roughly, throwing them into their own cells. Jake supervised the data extraction personally. What he saw on those screens made him sick. The Krell hadn't just killed Emma once in the massacre. They had taken her body, extracted her DNA, and grown a clone. Then they tortured that clone for years, documenting everything. They called it research. They called it necessary for understanding human vulnerabilities. And it wasn't just Emma. Every human killed in diplomatic incidents over the past decade had been cloned and studied. The peace treaty, the apologies, the cooperation, all of it was a lie. The Krell military had been preparing for war the entire time. "Sir, we've got incoming Krell warships," the communications officer reported. 3 cruisers. They're demanding we leave immediately." Jake looked at the data still downloading. They needed another 10 minutes. "Tell them we're rescuing human prisoners and we'll leave when we're done. If they fire on us, we fire back." "Jake, don't start a war," Emma 7 said softly. She stood beside him now, wrapped in a blanket. "That's what they want, an excuse to attack. They already attacked, 5 years ago. They just hit it well." But Jake held his fire. The Krell ships approached but didn't shoot. They were probably as surprised as the humans were. Finally, the data finished downloading. Jake had everything. Experiment logs, genetic research, weapon designs, communications between Krell military command, all the proof anyone could need. Everyone back to the ships. We're leaving. The human fleet jumped away just as more Krell vessels arrived. Jake sat in his command chair, watching Emma 7 in the medical bay through a monitor. She looked so much like the woman he'd loved, but she was different too. Harder. Scarred in ways that didn't show on the outside. "Get me a secure channel to Earth," he said. "Priority 1. Admiral Carter needs to see this immediately." The transmission took 3 hours to reach Earth. When it did, the reaction was instant and explosive. Admiral Carter watched the footage of the clone facility. He read the experiment logs. He saw the proof that the Krell had been lying for 5 years. Director Helen Parker was called to an emergency meeting. She arrived at the military command center looking confused. "What's this about? Why the emergency?" Carter didn't say anything. He just played the recording. Parker watched in silence. Her face went pale. Her hands gripped the table edge until her knuckles turned white. When the recording ended, she sat very still for a long moment. "They lied to us," she finally said. "All this time, the apology, the reparations. All of it was a lie. Yes, Emma Blake didn't just die in a coup. They murdered her, then desecrated her body by creating a clone to torture. They did this to 13 of our people." "Yes." Parker stood up slowly. Her face had changed. The politician who preached peace at any cost was gone. In her place stood something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. "Contact every human colony, every ship, every military base. Tell them what happened. Show them the recordings. Let our people see what the Krell really are." "And then?" Carter asked, though he already knew the answer. "And then we go to war." The news spread across human space like wildfire. Every channel showed the footage from the facility. Emma 7's testimony was broadcast everywhere. People saw the clone with Emma Blake's face explaining years of torture. They saw the other victims. They saw the casual cruelty documented in Krell files. The public reaction was immediate and unanimous. People who had preached peace and forgiveness 5 years ago now demanded justice. Parents who named their daughters Emma in honor of the martyred captain now wanted blood. The Krell had made a fatal miscalculation. They thought killing Emma once and getting away with it meant humans were weak. They thought they could kill her again slowly, through torture and experimentation, and humans would never find out. They were wrong. On the edge of human space, Jake Morrison sat with Emma 7 in the medical bay. She was recovering, gaining weight, getting stronger. The doctor said she would survive, though the psychological scars would take years to heal. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now Earth decides what to do with the truth." "Will there be war?" Jake looked at her. This woman who wore his dead friend's face but had her own experiences, her own pain. "Yes, there will be war." "Good." Her voice was hard. "They need to pay for what they did. Not just to me, but to all of us. To the real Emma, the real victims. They need to understand that humans don't forget. We don't forgive this." "No," Jake agreed. "We don't." The first strike came without warning. 50 human warships appeared in orbit around the Krell colony world of Tekvar. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, weapons already charged and targeting systems locked. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, the fleet's flagship. He was 70 years old, but his voice was strong and clear when he gave the order. "All ships, fire at will." The sky above Tekvar lit up with fire. Railguns launched metal slugs at incredible speeds. Plasma cannons tore through Krell defensive stations. Missiles streaked toward military targets on the surface. The attack was precise, calculated, and overwhelming. The Krell scrambled their defense forces, but they were too slow. Human ships had better shields now, courtesy of Dr. Kate Williams's research. Energy weapons that should have crippled the human fleet barely scratched the new defenses. And human weapons, improved versions of technology the Krell themselves had shared, hit harder than anything the aliens expected. Orbital stations destroyed, the tactical officer reported. Military bases on the surface are gone. Krell fleet is attempting to regroup. Don't give them time, Carter ordered. Fighter wings, engage their ships. Capital ships, prepare for the next jump. Human fighter craft, small and fast, swarmed the larger Krell vessels. They were piloted by men and women who had seen the footage from the clone facility. They fought with rage and purpose. Within 3 hours, Tekvar was under human control. The colony surrendered. Admiral Carter left a garrison force and moved on to the next target. This happened simultaneously across Krell space. Human fleets appeared at 9 different colony worlds at the same time. It was a coordinated assault on a scale the galaxy had never seen from humanity before. Captain Jake Morrison commanded one of those fleets. His ship, hastily renamed Emma's Fury, led the attack on a Krell mining colony. The battle was short and brutal. Jake felt no satisfaction in the victory, only grim determination. "Sir, the colony administrator is requesting terms of surrender," his communications officer said. "Tell them to evacuate all Krell military personnel to the surface, then deactivate their orbital weapons. If they comply, we won't fire on civilian areas. And if they don't?" Jake's face was hard. "Then we remove the military installations by force. But I'm not a murderer. We're better than they are." The Krell complied. They were learning quickly that human mercy had limits, but it still existed. Unlike the Krell, who had tortured prisoners for years, humanity fought with rules. They targeted military assets, not civilians. They took prisoners and treated them well. But they showed no mercy to the Krell military. In space above the Krell industrial world of Vorkesh, a massive battle raged. 200 Krell warships faced off against 90 human vessels. The numbers favored the Krell, but numbers weren't everything. Commander Lisa Grant commanded a human destroyer in that battle. Her ship, the Defiant, was smaller than most Krell cruisers, but it moved faster and hit harder. "Evasive pattern Delta," she ordered as Krell missiles locked onto her ship. "Return fire on that cruiser. Target their engines." The Defiant spun and dove, dodging most of the incoming fire. The shots that did hit splashed harmlessly against the new shields. Then the Defiant's railgun spoke, sending tungsten slugs through the void at a fraction of the speed of light. The Krell cruiser's engines exploded. The ship went dead in space, unable to maneuver. Other human vessels finished it off with plasma fire. "Another one down," the tactical officer said, "but we're still outnumbered 2-1. "Doesn't matter," Lisa said calmly. "We're faster, our shields are better, and our weapons hit harder. They're fighting last decade's war. We're fighting tomorrow's." She was right. The battle lasted 6 hours, and when it ended, 170 Krell ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet lost 7 vessels. The mathematics of war had shifted dramatically in humanity's favor. The Krell High Command watched in horror as their military crumbled. These were supposed to be weak humans, the species they had so easily killed and deceived. But the humans they faced now were nothing like the peaceful diplomats from 5 years ago. High Commander Zeknor called an emergency meeting. His officers gathered in the war room, their faces showing shock and fear. "How is this possible?" one commander demanded. "Our intelligence said humans were inferior warriors. Their technology was decades behind ours." "They learned," Zeknor said bitterly. "We gave them our technology as reparations, and they improved it. While we thought we were studying them, they were studying us, and they learned faster." "We must sue for peace," another officer said. "Before they destroy everything," Zeknor nodded. "Draft a surrender offer. Full apology, reparations, whatever they want. We cannot win this war." But when they sent the surrender offer, Earth's response was cold and immediate. Director Helen Parker herself delivered it, her face appearing on every Krell communication screen. "You want peace now? After 5 years of lies? After torturing our people? After planning to exterminate us?" She shook her head. "We gave you peace once. You spat on it. You killed her once, and we forgave you. You killed her again, and now you face the consequences. There will be no peace until the Krell Collective is dismantled completely." The message ended. The Krell realized with growing horror that humanity wasn't just fighting to win. They were fighting to destroy an entire civilization. On Earth, Dr. Kate Williams worked around the clock in her lab. She wasn't developing defensive technology anymore. Now she built weapons. Her team had created something terrifying. A neural disruptor based on the Krell's own research. "It targets their specific brain chemistry," she explained to Admiral Carter over a video call. "It won't harm humans or any other species we've encountered. But to the Krell, it's lethal. Or it can be non-lethal depending on the setting." How does it work? It sends out a pulse that disrupts neural pathways in Krell brains. On the lethal setting, it causes immediate brain death. On non-lethal, it renders them unconscious for hours. We can clear entire ships or installations without killing anyone if we choose. Carter nodded slowly. "Deploy it to all combat units, but make sure they understand. We use non-lethal settings when possible. We're not genocidal. We're just done being victims." The neural disruptors changed the war again. Human boarding parties could now storm Krell ships, knock out the entire crew in seconds, and take the vessel intact. Krell ground forces found themselves unable to fight as invisible waves of energy dropped them unconscious. The Krell military began to collapse. Colonies surrendered without fighting. Ships fled rather than engage. In 6 weeks, humanity captured or destroyed 2/3 of the Krell fleet. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Emma's Fury as they approached the Krell homeworld. This was it, the final battle. Hundreds of human ships gathered in formation, while thousands of Krell vessels defended their home. Emma 7 stood beside him. She had insisted on coming, despite the danger. She wore a human military uniform now, serving as an advisor. Jake had tried to talk her out of it, but she was stubborn, just like the original Emma had been. "Are you ready for this?" he asked her quietly. "I've been ready for 5 years," she replied. "Every day in that cell I dreamed of this moment. Not revenge exactly. Justice. The Krell need to understand that actions have consequences. They're about to learn that lesson the hard way." The battle for the Krell homeworld lasted 3 days. It was the bloodiest fighting of the war. Krell defenders fought desperately to protect their planet, but human forces were relentless. They fought in shifts, one fleet replacing another, never giving the Krell time to rest or regroup. Finally, the Krell defenses broke. Human ships entered orbit unopposed. Admiral Carter sent one final message to the Krell High Command. "Surrender now, or we will take your homeworld by force. You have 1 hour." 59 minutes later, High Commander Zeknor broadcast his unconditional surrender. The war was over. Humanity had won, but the victory came with a cost. 3,000 human soldiers died in the fighting. 12 ships were destroyed, and the psychological toll on everyone involved would last years. Jake stood on the observation deck of Emma's Fury, looking down at the Krell homeworld. Fires burned across the surface where military installations had been destroyed. But the cities remained intact. Billions of Krell civilians lived down there, afraid of what would happen next. Emma 7 joined him. "What now?" she asked. "Now comes the hard part," Jake said. "We won the war. Now we have to win the peace." "Do you think we can?" He looked at her. This woman who had suffered more than anyone should. The surrender ceremony took place on the Krell homeworld, in the ruins of their military command center. High Commander Zeknor knelt before Admiral Ben Carter, his armor stripped away, wearing only a simple robe. Behind him, 24 Krell military leaders waited for judgment. Human soldiers lined the walls, weapons ready, but they didn't look triumphant. Most looked tired, sad, and ready for this to be over. Admiral Carter stood before Zeknor, holding a data tablet. His voice carried across the silent room, broadcast to every human and Krell world. The Krell Collective is hereby dissolved. Your military will be dismantled. Your government will be reformed under human supervision. Your colonies will be administered by a joint council until we determine you're ready to govern yourselves again. Zeknor kept his head bowed. Will you kill us? No. Carter's voice was firm. We're not murderers, but you will face trial for your crimes. Every officer involved in the clone facilities, every scientist who tortured prisoners, every commander who authorized those actions, they will all face justice. And the rest of my people, the civilians, they will be protected, fed, educated. We're not here to destroy the Krell. We're here to make sure you never hurt anyone again. It wasn't what Zeknor expected. It wasn't what anyone expected. The humans had won total victory. They could have done anything they wanted. Instead, they chose reconstruction over revenge. Over the next months, human administrators arrived on every Krell world. They brought food, medicine, and engineers to rebuild what the war destroyed. They also brought teachers, lawyers, and social workers. The Krell were taught about individual rights, about rules of war, about the value of life beyond their own species. It was humiliating for a culture that once saw themselves as superior. But it was also necessary. Emma 7 became Ambassador Emma Blake, human representative to the occupied Krell territories. She chose to use the original Emma's name, a decision she made after long conversations with Jake Morrison. She died trying to make peace, Emma 7 said. I lived because they couldn't accept peace. Maybe I can finish what she started. Her first official meeting with the new Krell civilian government was tense. The Krell leaders, all civilians who had opposed the military faction, sat across from her looking uncomfortable. You must hate us, one of them said. After what we did to you. Emma looked at them calmly. I hate what was done. But I'm learning to separate the Krell people from the Krell military. Your warriors made choices. Your scientists made choices. But millions of ordinary Krell just lived their lives. They didn't ask for this war. Many of our people believe we deserve to be destroyed for our crimes. Maybe you did, Emma said bluntly. But humanity chose differently. We chose to believe the Krell can be better. Now you have to prove we were right to believe that. The trials began 6 months after the surrender. Krell officers were prosecuted for war crimes. The proceedings were public, broadcast across the galaxy. Species that had stayed neutral during the war watched as humanity demonstrated both justice and mercy. The clone facility scientists faced the harshest punishment. They were convicted of crimes against sapient life and sentenced to life imprisonment. But they were treated humanely, given decent cells and regular meals. No torture, no experiments. Just confinement and the knowledge of what they had done. Zeknor's trial was different. The evidence showed he had known about the facilities but hadn't ordered them created. He was guilty of allowing the crimes to continue, of not stopping them when he could have. Emma 7 testified at his trial. She stood in the courtroom, facing the Krell who had once commanded the forces that killed the original Emma. Did High Commander Zeknor personally order your creation or torture? The prosecutor asked. No, Emma said. But he knew. He could have stopped it. He chose not to. What punishment do you believe he deserves? Emma was quiet for a long moment. I believe he should serve the Krell people by helping rebuild what his choices destroyed. Death would be easy. Living with his mistakes and working to fix them would be harder. The court agreed. Zeknor was stripped of rank and title, sentenced to 30 years of public service. He would spend those years teaching young Krell about the mistakes of the past, ensuring they never happened again. Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, commanded the occupation fleet. He visited Emma often at the embassy. They had grown close over the months, bonded by shared trauma and the strange situation of her existence. Do you ever regret not asking for the death penalty? He asked her one evening as they shared dinner. No, Emma said. Killing them all would have been easier. But it wouldn't have changed anything. The Krell need to learn. Death doesn't teach. Consequences do. You sound like her, the original Emma. I have her memories, or fragments of them. Sometimes I don't know where she ends and I begin. Emma smiled sadly. But I think she'd approve of what we're doing. She died believing in peace. Maybe this is the peace she would have wanted. On Earth, Director Helen Parker announced her resignation. In a speech to the United Colonies, she took full responsibility for the 5 years of deception. I chose peace at any cost, she said, her voice heavy with regret. I thought forgiveness was always the right choice, but I was wrong. Some things cannot be forgiven easily. Some crimes demand justice. I failed Emma Blake and every human who suffered because of my choices. I'm stepping down so someone wiser can lead us forward. Her replacement was Admiral Carter. He accepted the position reluctantly, but everyone agreed he had earned it. Under his leadership, human foreign policy changed. Peace was still the goal, but it came with clear red lines. Attack humans once, face diplomacy. Attack humans twice, face total war. Other alien species watched and learned. The Krell had been one of the galaxy's major powers. Humanity had dismantled them in 6 months. No one wanted to be next. 2 years after the war ended, the Emma Blake Memorial Station above Luna held a special ceremony. Emma 7 stood on the observation deck, looking at Earth below. Beside her stood Jake, Dr. Kate Williams, and hundreds of others who had served during the war. Today we remember 2 women, the speaker said, Captain Emma Blake, who died seeking peace, and the clone who carried her name and her hope for something better. Both of them shaped our future. Both of them showed us who we can be. Emma felt tears on her face. She wasn't the original Emma, but she carried her legacy, and maybe that was enough. After the ceremony, Jake found her alone on the deck. Are you okay? I think so, Emma said. It's strange, being honored for surviving while she's honored for dying. Sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life. You're not, Jake said firmly. You're living your own life. Yes, you started as her clone, but what you've done the past 2 years, the peace you've built, that's all you. She'd be proud of you. I know I am. Emma smiled at him. Thank you for not giving up on me, on any of us. I made her a promise, Jake said quietly. I promised I'd tell Earth to choose peace. I kept that promise 5 years ago, even though I hated it. And now, seeing what we've built instead of just destroying everything, I think she was right. Peace is harder than war, but it's worth it. Down on the Krell homeworld, in a classroom full of young Krell students, Zeknor taught history. The students listened as he described the war, the crimes, the consequences. Why did the humans spare us? One student asked. We tried to destroy them. Because they're better than we were, Zeknor said simply. We saw mercy as weakness. They showed us that mercy can be the greatest strength. They could have killed us all. Instead, they chose to teach us, to help us become better. That is true power. 5 years after the war, the occupation officially ended. The Krell were given back control of their worlds, but with conditions. They would maintain a small defense force only. They would have human observers in their government, and they would continue teaching their children about the price of aggression. Emma 7, still serving as ambassador, stood on the platform as the Krell raised their new flag. It was different from the old one, softer, with symbols of peace woven into the design. Do you think this will last? A reporter asked her. I think it has to, Emma said, because the alternative is more war, more death, more suffering. The Krell made terrible choices, but they're learning, and as long as they keep learning, Keep growing. There's hope. Jake stood beside her, now retired from active service, but still wearing his uniform for the ceremony. Your original would have liked this, he said quietly. Our original, Emma corrected gently. She belongs to all of us now. Her dream of peace, her sacrifice, it made this possible. That night, back on the memorial station, Emma stood alone in front of the main memorial. It showed Captain Emma Blake's face, young and hopeful, with the words, "She died for peace," carved beneath. I finished what you started, Emma whispered to the image. It took a war to get here, and that's not what you wanted, but we made something good from all that pain. I hope that's enough. She felt a presence beside her. Jake had followed her, giving her space but staying close. Do you ever wonder what she'd think of all this? Emma asked. The war, the occupation, everything we did in her name? Every day, Jake admitted. But I think she'd understand. We tried peace her way. When that failed, we did what we had to do. And then when we won, we chose her way again. Mercy, teaching. Building instead of destroying. That's the Emma I knew. That's the legacy worth keeping. Emma nodded. They stood together in silence, watching Earth turn slowly below them. Somewhere down there, children were being taught about Captain Emma Blake, about the price of peace and the cost of war, about the importance of second chances. And in classrooms across the former Krell Collective, young aliens learned the same lessons. They learned about the humans who could have destroyed them, but chose reconstruction instead. They learned that strength wasn't about conquest, but about choosing mercy when you had the power to destroy. The galaxy was changing. Humanity had proven itself as warriors, yes, but more importantly, they had proven themselves as builders. They fought when they had to, then put down their weapons and picked up tools. Other species watched and wondered. If humanity could forgive the Krell after such betrayal, what else were they capable of? If they could turn enemies into students, what kind of future could they build? In the memorial station, Emma Blake 7 finally understood her purpose. She wasn't just a clone of a dead hero. She was a bridge between past and future, between war and peace, between humanity's capacity for violence and their greater capacity for forgiveness. Never again, she said softly, reading the words inscribed on every human warship. Never again, Jake agreed, but also never forgotten. We remember what happened. We stay ready, but we always try for peace first. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not just the ability to wage total war when necessary, but the wisdom to know when to stop. The strength to show mercy. The hope to believe even enemies could become something better. They killed her once, and Earth let that slide. They killed her twice, and Earth brought total retaliation. But when the war ended, Earth chose to heal rather than destroy. And that choice made all the difference. The stars turned above them, full of possibilities. Somewhere out there, other species learned from humanity's example. War was sometimes necessary, but peace, real lasting peace, built on justice and understanding, that was always worth fighting for. Emma Blake had died believing in that peace. Her clone lived to help build it. And humanity, having learned the hard way that mercy requires strength and peace requires vigilance, would guard that peace for generations to come. The story ended not with victory, but with hope. And sometimes, hope is the greatest victory of all. Have to suffer, yet still believed in something better than simple revenge. I don't know, he admitted, but we have to try. Because if we just destroy them and leave, we're no better than they are. And the real Emma, your original, she wouldn't want that. Emma 7 smiled slightly. No, she wouldn't. She believed in second chances, even for people who didn't deserve them. Then let's make sure her death, both of them, meant something. Down on the Krell homeworld, Zeknor prepared for humanity's judgment. He expected execution or enslavement. He expected the humans to do to his people what his people had tried to do to them. What he got instead would surprise him more than anything else in his long life. Humanity was about to teach the galaxy another lesson. Not just about how fiercely they could fight, but about what they chose to do with victory. Across human space, fleet mobilization began. Ships that had been patrolling now formed battle groups. Weapon systems that had been secretly installed were activated. Dr. Kate Williams's shield technology was distributed to every vessel. Admiral Carter's careful preparations over 5 years were about to pay off. The Krell sent messages demanding the humans return the clones and the stolen data. They threatened economic sanctions. They called the rescue mission an act of war. Director Parker's response was broadcast across all frequencies, in every language, to every species in known space. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute conviction. You killed her once. We forgave you. We chose peace. We believed your lies. But you killed her again. You tortured her for 5 years. You tortured 13 of our people. You plan to use that research to destroy us. We will never forgive this. We will never forget. And now, you will face the consequences. The message ended. There were no negotiations, no diplomatic channels, no room for compromise. Humanity was done talking. The war was about to begin, EGE. But she was about to find out. And when Earth learned the truth, when they discovered what the Krell had really been doing during those 5 years of peace, the galaxy would learn something important about humanity. Forgiveness has limits, and some crimes can never be forgiven. Jake Morrison attended Emma's memorial service. They buried an empty coffin since her body remained on the Krell flagship. He stood in his dress uniform, jaw clenched, as Parker praised Emma's sacrifice for peace. That night, Jake requested a transfer. He couldn't stomach the diplomatic work anymore. They gave him a patrol ship on the edge of human space, far from the Krell and the politics. 5 years passed. The galaxy moved on. Emma Blake became a name in history books, a martyr for peace between species. But some truths have a way of coming to light, and some debts can never be forgiven.